I'm now joined in the studio by Georgina Lamb, Senior Partnerships Manager at the Farming Community Network and Farmer's Daughter. The FCN has over 400 volunteers across England and Wales, many of whom are involved in farming or have close links with agriculture and therefore have a great understanding of the issues that farmers and farm workers and contractors face. Today we're going to be talking about a number of issues, but the charity's volunteers provide free, confidential, pastoral and practical support to anyone who seeks help, regardless of whether the issue is personal or business related. In addition to local groups of volunteers, FCN runs a confidential national helpline, and the number is 03000 111 999, and an e-helpline which is open every day of the year from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So, Georgina, very good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
What a fantastic show. Are you
Absolutely.
having a good show so far?
We're having an amazing show. Really busy, great to talk to all sorts of different people from different walks of farming life. And nice that people are coming and talking to a farming charity, just to have a general chat about the work that we do, but having a crack.
So that's the joys of live TV, I'm afraid. So we are definitely live, ladies and gentlemen, and we're here at the NEC. And my first question to you really is about the FCN, and tell us a little bit about what the charity does.
So we're a national farming charity that supports anybody within agriculture, the farming world and beyond through any kind of challenges that they might be having, whether that's personal, business, family related, or people that are looking for a little bit of support. It might be that they're suffering with isolation or any kind of difficulty, but we're there, as you mentioned, 365 days a year with our national helpline that's manned by volunteers and our staff team as well, that are very much there to listen and support, be a critical friend in times of difficulties. And we're also there on the ground, in person, should people need support practically at home, somebody by their side to walk with them through any of the problems. But we're also there very much to champion farming and positivity and really bring a lot of hope to the industry, because we all know that farming is a difficult life for many, but it's also a wonderful life also.
Well, it's a lonely life for many.
Can be, yes.
And I think the lack of a support network for those farmers who are on their TOD is probably one of the critical things. Most
definitely. Rural isolation is something that we come across time and time again, because farmers will sometimes be on the tractor. The only people that they're seeing on any kind of basis will be the people coming down that farm track, whether that's an agronomist, a tanker driver, and people are quite isolated physically as well, so out in the sticks, up in the hills. I think something that we do as an industry, and me as an urban farmer from the centre of Halifax, is sometimes forget about the loneliness that can happen as an urban farmer when you're surrounded by suburbia that don't necessarily understand the life of farmers and the things that we do. So it doesn't just about physical isolation, but also sometimes we can be quite alone within, a conurbation type environment.
A sort of a use which is not common in an urban environment. So I imagine that brings its own challenges, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's quite a lot of prevalence of rural crime in urban areas, because you've got the motorway networks and a big area of people, and people seeing what you've got coming in and on and off the farm. But also the challenges that there's small pockets of land in and amongst these larger cities, and people do find it difficult to make a living off the fats of the land and just have one income coming in, because times are very difficult, and sometimes it's hard just to be a farmer and have that luxury of land when urban farmers can be quite small.
No, I can imagine so. And what we're seeing surrounded by all this wonderful machinery is that these are really, really expensive bits of kit.
Absolutely.
And is it more difficult to get contractor support in an urban environment? I imagine it's potentially not so much the contractors on your doorstep if you've got a town on your doorstep, so to speak.
It's the age-old thing, you've got to make hay when the sun shines. So, you might be at the bottom of the list, and if you see that the clouds are looming, it can be difficult to make sure that you get the harvest in at that time when there are jobs pending. But yes, amazing machinery here, multi thousands of pounds worth of kit that
and that's our first farming pun of the day, actually, in terms of making hay whilst the sun shines. So
there you go.
You score 10 points for that.
Tick.
So the FCN, how does it support farmers? You've talked about the helpline, and that strikes me as an absolutely fantastic thing. But what are the most common issues that you and your teams are seeing?
Okay, so we've been around for over 25 years now, and regularly we get statistics on the kind of calls that we get. We're very much a grassroots based organisation, so we listen to the challenges and the problems that are coming in and respond accordingly. We can pretty much guarantee that the three main key points will be people that are struggling with their mental health, family disputes and succession planning, and also financial difficulties as well. But the cases are becoming increasingly more complex. So it might be that we go in and we're dealing with a situation where there's an elderly parent, but then that's causing difficulties with maybe mobility, but we're also looking at the fact that BPS payments are ever decreasing now. But at the moment we are having an increasing number in the amount of calls relating to the RPA and late payments, albeit a reduced payment, but still a vital one to keep farmers to keep them going on what can be a very precarious knife edge. So a lot of things compounded on each other can lead to real difficult challenges. Working with family, living with them, not being able to get off the farm, and I think sometimes you can become a little bit insular and not see the wood for the trees. So for somebody to be able to come in and mediate and hopefully demonstrate
a bit of perspective, perhaps.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes.
I mean, we're talking, I think, about mental health really, and is there still a stigma around mental health and the use of that phrase and all the things that brings to what is, to many, still quite a traditional industry?
I've worked in the farming charity sector for over 16 years. It is turning a juggernaut talking about mental health, and as a farmer's daughter I can say farmers can be stubborn and a little bit stuck in their ways at times, but there is that stiff upper lip approach still there. The pride is just palpable, and sometimes asking for support can be really crippling. But the fact that we're trying to normalise the conversation and reach people way before the point of crisis, that's why we're here at events like LAMMA, really flying the flag, just normalising. Come and have a chat, let's just discuss things where it's not so much of a difficult conversation to have if we're getting to problems and challenges way before the point of crisis, because a problem shared is a problem halved. A lot of the times farmers just want to have a chat, and we'll talk about lambing or what the moisture content of grain is, and just get it off the chest and feel so much better just about having a chat with a like-minded person or being listened to. But there is still that stigma. We're talking about a lot of self-employed people that might see what they're...
I think that loneliness thing is also really critical, isn't it? I mean, if we look at other industries, so in France, in ski resorts, the highest levels of suicide is the pisteurs, the guys and girls who operate the machinery making the ski piece. And I think it's similar that, they tend to work a lot of nights as well, which isn't great. But people in farming tend to be in small groups or on their Todd, and with a lot of time for self-reflection.
That's right, and I think catastrophic thinking as well can play a big part in that. So when you are potentially having a difficult season with the weather, coupled with health difficulties, financial problems, so all of these things are building up. And if you are just listening to, your own thoughts and feelings and not being able to get that perspective and loneliness, it can lead to some very, very dark times. And we're trying to really intervene before that point to show people that there is hope.
To sort of head things off at the pass. I mean, for me, there's a direct read across with the steps that the military have taken in the UK. So, as an ex-Royal Marine myself, the Corps had significant mental health challenges with some of our colleagues, sort of post-Iraq and Afghan, and really spent time to try and turn that supertanker around, to use your phrase, to get people to understand that actually it's okay to be not okay, and to hold your hand up. And one of the key things is the ability to see in your work colleagues, your mates, that when they're not quite themselves. More challenging in farming if you're on your own, isn't it?
It is, and I think that, again, somebody said to me once, I would rather be shouted at than cried on. So it's how we as an industry that might see Jim down the road not quite looking himself, not taking care of himself, being a bit more dishevelled in his appearance, or letting standards slip on the farm. How confident are we as an industry to be able to say, listen, are you okay? Are you really okay? And then receive the response, which is actually, no, I'm not. You know, that can be a real daunting conversation to have, but FCN and a lot of the work that I'm doing with especially the farming business community, is trying to help people have those difficult conversations. So when somebody does say, actually no, and I do need some help, how to be able to cope with that, how to signpost with confidence to an organisation that can, you know, help and guide people in the right direction, or signpost to further support.
Couldn't think of anything worse than somebody hearing that their friend is, you know, struggling and not knowing
Absolutely.
who to contact.
Yes, because they're then going to take that on board and lose sleep and not know what to do or where to turn. So really, as a community, as it's the responsibility of the industry to really be the eyes and ears on the ground and look out for each other and not be afraid of saying, you know, you don't seem yourself. Shall we have a chat? Can we go for a walk? Let's have a brew. You know, really just take that time.
So I mean, it might be a cliche, but I'm going to say it anyway. Is this a generational issue? You know, are we seeing, you know, will this disappear in 20 years' time because, you know, people are more aware, more sensitive in younger generations?
Oh my goodness, that's quite a big question. I think that the pressures on the older generation and the younger generation are massively different in some ways, because I think my dad wouldn't really particularly care less of what social media or what he was wearing or the views of certain groups. You know, he's maybe got a bit more of a thicker skin and has sort of seen off those difficult days. I think that the younger generation and the fears and worries of fitting in with people and the stigma of potentially the pressures of agriculture now do create a worrying and challenge for them, and yet, you know, I've worked a lot in agricultural colleges and with the young farmers, and just seeing them really looking after each other and really banging the positive mental health drum, because we know that there is some real difficult and hard headlines that we've seen over the years with younger people that have taken their own life through in very, very tragic circumstances. So I'd love to be able to say that it's all going to be okay in years to come, but I really think that we've got to, you know, embrace the younger generation and the different challenges they face.
And I think you're spot on, and it was a horrible question, and I think it was beautifully answered, but I think we will need to perhaps adapt the way we deal with mental health issues according to the cohort we're talking to, perhaps?
Most definitely. I went into ag colleges and I was talking about the challenges that they were facing now, and the fear of the blame culture of going into agriculture because we're ruining the planet, which came out quite significantly. Knowing that you were going to be entering into quite a lot of financial debt because of you know, what we're putting out there and the challenges of making ends meet. But also, I was totally unaware of a new culture of male toxicity that's hit the younger generation, and all of these horrible challenges that beautifully I managed to avoid the internet back in those days. But now there is obviously a lot of external influences that are playing part. And it's not just agriculture, really. This is happening to all younger generation, but I just think, you know, focusing in. Life can be difficult, and it's just about letting them know that farming can be a wonderful life.
It definitely can, and I think you've touched on, you know, we're talking about this, it's absolutely right that we should, and you're doing you and the charity are doing amazing work, but do you feel people are put off when they hear negative stories and statistics, etc., etc.?
It concerns me sometimes that we lead with the negative, you know, and this is something that we're going to be discussing in our debate tomorrow, because I do think, you know, when I've been into colleges and they are packed with agricultural students that are going into this with their eyes wide open, you know, we've gone from BSc to foot and mouth. We've never known the golden years of agriculture. So actually there is a real kind of passion for it, even though we know it's going to be hard. But is it off-putting when you see headlines like 97% of the farming community is suffering with mental health problems? Are we tarnishing the industry, and are we painting the doom and gloom instead of talking about resilience and hope and how we can hopefully, you know, improve that and support people going into agriculture? Because it does worry me that we are putting upon the next generation, you're going to have mental health problems and you're not going to have much money. It can be a little bit of a difficult conversation, but
I hear that, and,
yeah.
and I think, you know, like every industry, we reflect society, and you know, there have been some sort of fairly substantial societal changes in the last, you know, 50 years, and you know, particularly maybe over the last 10 or 15 with social media. But it's not all bad. I mean, I think the sort of the Clarkson's Farm effect we talked about before lunch with the previous interview, actually, you know, is painting farming in a really good light, and you know, not shying away from the tough issues, and you know, perhaps, you know, there is hope around sort of programs like that and the support it can give to the industry.
I think you're absolutely right. You know, it's very real and it does demonstrate the challenges, but also the joy and the great times, you know, working for yourself, working on the land, being there when you see calves born and sheep in the fields, and having the beauty of the landscape there to farm and have that. We are the custodians of the countryside, it's been said over the years, but I've loved my life and my upbringing, and being able to bring my daughter up on the farm as well, I think is a real blessing that I wouldn't want to sit in rush hour traffic every day like the poor people that have got to commute into the city. So yeah, there are a lot of benefits to being in farming.
I think it's a wonderful life, and people, you know that when they know that, and
yeah.
it's sort of, you know, selling that perhaps. I mean, part of that, we've got the LAMMA live panel happening tomorrow, I think,
yes.
and you and the FCN cohort are going to be on that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, again, it's just taking on this elephant in the room, how we are addressing mental health. Are we leading with the wrong headline here? And just, it's going to be great to get the different perspectives from the panel. So we've got the media with Olivia Midgley, who's going to be talking a little bit about the role of the media, and are we leading with the right kind of headline? Is that encouraging things? Is that catastrophizing where we're at? We've got Stuart Roberts, who is an FCN trustee, but also had a major role within the NFU, and looking a little bit more about the political side of things and the role the government plays in this here, and the challenges that are placed upon farmers with that. We've got Papyrus, who are a young person's suicide charity, talking a little bit of an external perspective and the realities and the stats around mental health and suicide within farming. And then Charles Anion, who is a great farmer and a big champion and ambassador for FCN, and also mental health as well, and the role of fitness and personal kind of achievement, and how that really feeds into feel-good farming life. So yeah, we're not going to be skirting around the subject, but I think it's an important one to have.
No, it absolutely is, and not just for shows like LAMMA. It's something that needs to be part of our sort of, if not daily narrative, part of our sort of general going about our business, that we're sort of aware of things, I would have thought.
It's great. Things like this, and I do tend to go to lots of different conferences where they will give a segment just to FCN or you know, one of our team to be able to just say quick 15 minutes and just. I think I'm amongst lots of different tractors and dealerships, and we're talking about mental health, and then we'll go back to the industry. But I think that's drip feeding that message that we're here, we recognise that farming does need support every now and again, but then back to business. You know, we're not trying to doom and gloom things up, we're just another resource that's here, and FCN and our amazing team of volunteers and staff, we're at all of the events, we're everywhere, and a lot of the auction marts where we know that a lot of people go. That's their social life, you know, the older generation, and like you said, rural isolation. Everyone goes to the market.
I was literally about to say, Mark, because
yeah.
you know, when I was a young lad, the market was the thing. It was the social event. Yeah. Everybody talked down everyone else's beasts, and
yeah.
it was all. And of course, there's a lot less of that happening now with
Sadly,
stuff being sold
yeah.
online. And you know, that's a you know, is it regrettable or is it just a thing? That's just how the industry has moved. But there isn't quite that same sort of interaction sort of once a week or what have you.
It's really, yeah, it's sad to see. And like you said, you know, a lot of our auction mats now are just drop off. So and COVID really did hammer that home, that the breakup of that social hub. But FCN, we've seen a real opportunity here to do socials, to get together, just chew the fat, talk about, like you said, prices of this, that and the other, about health, and when you're having your hip replacement and all of the things that farmers like to moan and groan about, but the beauty of conversation. So we've been doing a lot of yarn in a barn events out and about in the regions to get people.
Yarn in a barn, what a fantastic name.
And we've surrounded that in sort of positivity, but also touching upon some key topics within farming, whether that's succession, whether it might be looking at the new different farming schemes that are available, and different sort of things that farmers like to talk about. We can be quite an insular society, and we like to have a nosy around somebody's farm.
Certainly do, yes.
Exactly, it's all part and parcel, but really encouraging that.
It's really interesting though, because just as you were answering that, I've just been thinking about other things that have changed in the last, say, 30 years, because the vet was a point of continuity, and the same vet would go to farms and be around a smaller neighbourhood. That doesn't happen because of changes in the way that animal health is dealt with, and the vet just isn't that. Same with the salesman selling plant machinery, grain, feed, you name it, and all that's online, and there isn't quite one by one you're sort of pulling out sort of points of stability for the farmer who's on their own.
You're pulling out people and conversations and just general kind of talking around the subject. And again, with like agricultural bank managers, I know that there has been a real kind of breakdown there with everything, like I said, going digitally, that you're not going to go necessarily and talk about the dog or have a cup of tea, and the farmer's wife or husband may make a load of scones, and you go there for the day. It's like somebody's come to the farm, and you've seen births, deaths and marriages and all of the trials and tribulations, and very much become part of the farming family. So yes, that is again somewhere that FCN can be that critical friend, or be somebody that's there that visits or makes a phone call, just to have that human contact, because we all need people. We all do really need each other.
We're tribal animals, aren't we? Right.
Absolutely.
So we love a herd. And so tell me, a yarn in a barn, how do I find where one is near me?
Well, you need to be getting onto our social media platforms as well, and I'm going to also we have a great comms team, and they really do constantly push all of our events, and we have a team of regional support officers around the country that are organising these things with our volunteers. But yes, do have a look at our website and on all of the social media channels as well.
So Insta is clearly the place to...
LinkedIn, we're everywhere, and Facebook as well. But I really just wanted to point out something as well that we really are very, very positive about, which is our Farmwell platform. Now, it's an online resilience platform, whether that's business or personal, that's got resources on there of all sorts of different things, whether that be diversification or mental health or physical health, quitting smoking, all sorts of different information that's available free online, and that's the Farmwell platform.
Farmwell platform. Well, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.